Good morning and welcome to the second Broadband Council meeting of 2026. We appreciate everyone taking the time to join us today. I'm Scott Adams, the Deputy Director of the Office of Broadband and Digital Literacy at the Department of Technology. And today I'll be chairing the California Broadband Council on behalf of Chief Deputy Director Jared Johnson. We'd like to extend our thanks to the County of Sacramento Administrative Center and staff for supporting today's Broadband Council meeting. But before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to recognize former state CIO and director Leanna Bailey Cremens on her retirement after 38 years of public service to California. Leanna's leadership has been instrumental to the Broadband Council and Broadband for All, helping guide the statewide effort through some of its most complex challenges while always keeping a clear focus on people and outcomes. She consistently pushed us to think differently, to not accept no as the final answer, to think creatively and strategically, and to find ways to do more with what we have. She's been a true champion of Broadband for All. She will be missed, and we will carry this work forward in that same spirit. Ms. Wen, will you start with roll call and review the meeting housekeeping items, please?
Of course. Good morning, council members and members of the public. Council members, please announce your presence as your name is called. Deputy Director Adams from the California Department of Technology.
Present.
Commissioner Hauk from the California Public Utilities Commission.
Here.
Deputy Director Yarbrough from the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services.
Here.
Mr. Bello from the California Department of Education.
Good morning. Here.
Chief Deputy Director Kenny from the Department of General Services.
Here.
Ms. McPeak from the California Emerging Technology Fund.
Present.
Deputy Secretary Flores from the California Department of Food and Agriculture. Mr. Chisholm from the California State Library.
Present.
Secretary Snyder Ashtari from the Governor's Office of Tribal Affairs.
I'm here.
Senator Becker from the Senate. Assemblymember Gibson from the Assembly. Deputy Director Adams, we have a quorum. Now, housekeeping items for council members and members of the public. This meeting is being recorded. We will post a recording of this meeting, slides, and transcripts to the Broadband for All portal. Attendees, please note that there is time allocated at the end of the meeting for public comments, either in person, via Zoom, phone, and read-through of public comments sent via email submitted prior to the meeting. Presenters, please cue Amanda to advance your slides. Committee members, please use the raise your hand feature on Zoom or raise your hand in person to notify Deputy Director Adams to call on you to speak. And for folks online, please choose side-by-side speaker view when PowerPoint slides are shared for best viewing option. Choose closed captioning as you need, and it's available on Zoom in the black toolbar. You please raise your hand on Zoom or *9 during the public comment to be called in. Deputy Director Adams, we can begin.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wen. So as we know, Broadband Council meetings provide an opportunity to highlight how coordinated statewide initiatives and efforts are working together to achieve broadband for all, close the digital divide, and foster digital equity throughout California. Today's agenda will include some exciting implementation milestones that have occurred since our last meeting in January. Today's agenda begins with an executive report out from the Office of Broadband and Digital Literacy by Administrative Manager James Spencer. We'll have a large Broadband for All update, which will include sub-agenda items on implementation of the Broadband for All Action Plan, the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative, the public utilities last mile programs on adoption and affordability, and the State Digital Equity Plan. We're also pleased to report that for today's member spotlight, President and CEO of the Emerging Technology Fund, Sunny McPeak, will present on the Verizon Frontier public benefit agreements that came out of that merger. And then for today's community spotlight, we'll hear from Cal Privacy Deputy Director Marissa Rosenblatt to learn how the Delete Request and Opt-out platform, also known as DROP, provides community members with the opportunity to request the deletion of their personal information and to opt out of its sale for sharing, which is an important part of Broadband for All. And finally, as Ms. Nguyen alluded to earlier, there'll be an opportunity for public comments before closing. Would any council members like to make brief opening comments?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to just take the moment to underscore what you did as a tribute to former CIO and Director Leanna Bailey Crimmins. I have really appreciated the opportunity to work with her as the chair of the Broadband Council. I've also watched her role as the head of the department in the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative. And at last meeting, when she referenced something about being a Pell Grant recipient, I decided to do a little bit more deep dive, and I was just astounded at all of her service in the state, including with PERS and in healthcare. So I just acknowledge those decades, those 3 decades of service, and I have conveyed personally that were it my decision, I simply wouldn't allow her to retire. So she may hopefully be coming back in some way here, but she also uses a slogan that resonates with me. We at CETF, at the Bay Area Council, at when I was secretary at the agency, used it, which is failure is not an option. And so she has shared that with her team, and when she uttered it, which is it's attributed to Gene Kranz as the flight control director at NASA, I thought that's the imperative that we have to embrace. So I wanted to make sure I got to share that today and to pay tribute to Leanna for that notion. We must go forward and we may not fail.
Thank you, Ms. McKee. Are there any other comments? Okay. Well, let's begin with the first order of business, the executive report from the Office of Broadband and Digital Literacy. Broadband Administrative Manager James Spencer is here to give that report. James?
Yeah, thank you and good morning, Chair, council members, and members of the public. Can we get next slide, please? So I'm pleased to provide a high-level update on our work since the last council meeting in January, where we focused on 3 main areas. So the first was partner and stakeholder engagement, where we engaged with partners and stakeholders through the monthly Broadband for All email updates, which communicate progress on Broadband for All initiatives to over 13,000 stakeholders, and hosting the monthly digital equity communities of practice. So the second area we focused on was developing tools and resources to support digital equity ecosystem partners, like the Digital Equity Resource Finder, which Ms. Nguyen will speak to the new feature shortly. And the third area of focus, we were developing new public and private partnerships, such as the request for innovative ideas. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Very brief. Any of the members of the council have any comments or questions for Mr. Spencer? Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the next agenda item. I would also like to call back Mr. Spencer to begin the Broadband for All updates, starting with an update on the implementation of the Broadband for All action plan. I will note that we'll go through each of the presentations and have a short period for questions after each person. Okay?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And can we get next slide, please? So January's council meeting, we summarized the 2025 Broadband Action Plan implementation and results of the annual review process. As a quick reminder, 19 out of the 24 action items are completed. We have 5 action items in progress, And there were 2 revisions to action items 2 and 16. So far in 2026, there have been significant work on a number of action items. So for action item 6, multiple entities are actively working on broadband permitting for middle and last mile infrastructure projects. For action item 12, the Public Utilities Commission continues to work on the Lifeline Home Broadband Pilot Program. Action item 14, we continue to leverage contracting and procurement vehicles for the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative and the Broadband for All and State Digital Equity Plan request for innovative ideas. For action item 16, this complements action item 12 by promoting and tracking enrollment in low-cost offers. So there's some strong synergies here as the council members, organizations, and other entities are mobilizing to promote and raise awareness of the Lifeline Home Broadband Pilot Program. For action item 18, we continue to expand and engage with Digital Inclusion Stakeholder Network. And for 21, we continue to expand the Broadband for All portal through the Enhanced Digital Equity Resource Finder and other resources. And that concludes my update.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. I'd like to take some time. Do any of the council members have questions for Mr. Spencer? Yes, Mr. Ballou.
More of a question or comment than a question, and just a acknowledgement of the work of the team here and this group. You know, I come every once in a while as a fill-in for the fill-in when others at the department aren't here. And so, but I remember, I think one of the few times I ever met Christina in person was when we were working on what was the first part of this action plan. We met with Amy and we were talking about developing that goals for broadband back before, this was like 2018 or 2019, I think it was. And then, we were kind of doing it, and then that little thing called the pandemic hit, and it was like suddenly it was like broadband was a thing. And then we had all these resources, and we did a bunch with the resources, and all of us, all our agencies had, and now, the resources are gone and we're still doing it. So I just want to acknowledge the hard work that's done by the Broadband Council, the CDT, and all of our organizations, because things are going to change here this fall and things will keep happening, but we're going to still try to keep getting broadband out to every place. And our goal is we don't want to stop until we have fiber at every school in California where it's feasible. We know there's some schools, unfortunately, that won't happen, but we want to see if so. Acknowledge that work, and it was just remembering, thinking back to how we got to where we are today, and just wanted to kind of kudos to everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Ballou. Any other members like to make comments? Ms. McPeak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just following on Mr. Bello's comments about working together, it's great to see you here, Jeff, and representing the department. Mr. Bello has been a great advisor and ally to our work around particularly school to home, but there is so much work in terms of empowering schools to use effectively the internet technology, technology overall, in order to close the achievement gap, not just the digital divide, which is how we join the Department of Education. But my question to you, Mr. Spencer, given that I know we have been working very diligently on action item 16, and that is one in which the California Emerging Technology Fund is on the hook to try to close the digital divide. I'm wondering if we at the council should consider trying to put timeframes on these goals to be completed. It always helps. And I do think we're maybe within striking distance of getting to essentially the last 500,000 households who are digitally disadvantaged, unconnected and underconnected, having a smartphone only. But it's going to take all of the resources of the state, all of the departments to get there. And then the issue of digital literacy and getting devices to everybody. So those are sort of the three goals that everything relates to in the action plan. I would just raise that as a possible piece of work for the council in the next fiscal year. This is our last meeting of this fiscal year, isn't it? Oh my God, time flies in if you're not having fun. So, okay, That is my recommendation. It would be helpful, I think. I know we at CTF always need that discipline, and I need to actually know where we're going and when we're supposed to be there to back into the scale of actions.
Yeah, thank you for your comment and question, Ms. Peak. So while some of these are considered complete, they are still like fluid and dynamic. So we're monitoring and updating as necessary, and I definitely think that's something we could look at going forward.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Spencer. I might add that it would be good if staff could go back, because I think the initial framing of the 24 action items there were some that were short-term, some that were long-term. Now that it would be of value for the team and CDT to go back with the action item owners and see if we can frame them in a different light. And so Mr. Spencer asked the staff to do some work on that, and we'll hope to report out on that at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other questions or comments for Mr. Spencer? All right, thank you, Mr. Spencer. So next, we're going to move on to Mark Monroe, the Deputy Director of the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative, to highlight some of the significant progress the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative team and the broader partners have made implementing this historic project this year. Mr. Monroe.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Chair and members. Mark Monroe, Deputy Director for the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative here at CDT. I'm pleased to once again provide an update on the team's progress in advancing the state's Middle Mile Broadband network. Since our last meeting in mid-January, we have continued to make meaningful progress across several fronts. I'd like to begin today by announcing a major milestone for the initiative, the connection of the MMBN's first last mile community, the Bishop Paiute tribe. And all right, next slide, right? Consistent with the vision for broadband for all, both from the governor and the council have championed, we reached a historic milestone this month by connecting the first community to the state's Middle Mile Broadband network. This marks an important transition from 5 years of planning and construction to delivering meaningful connectivity to unserved and underserved communities, beginning with the Bishop Paiute tribe. In January 2026, we activated the first 423 miles of the Middle Mile infrastructure along Highway 395, bringing the corridor online as the initial operational segment and enabling support for last mile providers in the region. This month, we finalized our agreement with the Bishop Paiute tribe, establishing a partnership, building trust, and capitalizing on local leadership and our shared commitment to connectivity. I really want to recognize tribal leadership, including the tribe's IT director, Phil Fowler, and the tribal council for their role in making this milestone possible. I also want to acknowledge Governor Gavin Newsom for his continued support and commitment to ensure broadband access for all California communities. We'll now turn to a short video from the communications team highlighting this milestone.
Good afternoon and Manahu, everybody. Naniane Emma Williams. I am the elected chairwoman of a sovereign nation, the Bishop Paiute tribe. I stand here before you as an honor and privilege to speak and offer words on this momentous occasion for the Numu people on the beautiful and sacred Payahunadu homelands. This day will be remembered for many years to come as a day that the Bishop Paiute tribe took a huge step forward in advancing our people with technology and opportunity. We are the first tribe in California to connect to California's Middle Mile Broadband network. This would not have been possible if it were not for Governor Newsom initiating the funding to make this possible for rural and tribal communities throughout California. The vision is working, and we are the proof. Thank you, Governor.
So I'm deeply honored that we're here with the tribe, here in Bishop, with the community, doing something that has not been done in the history of the state of California. The future, officially, has happened here first. This is what we are now promoting and promising for other rural parts of the state. This is the largest investment, over 8,000 miles of infrastructure on the middle mile. The last mile, though, is where it all happens. And that's where the magic occurred, quite literally, just a few moments before we walked in.
Tribal Council and Tribal Administration have been really helpful in providing the tools that we need in order to accomplish our mission. In the time that I've been here, we've advanced to a point where we're one of the most highly developed IT departments in the region. And we wouldn't have been able to do that without the explicit support from Tribal Administration and from Tribal Council.
The workforce development for people that will be able to actually be the boots on the ground and getting, the lines going and the network up and running, that'll be a huge plus for our tribe. Internet isn't something that is considered a utility. I mean, in today's world, that's how we communicate, is by networking and through using our internet for everything. That's how you keep in touch with people and business and community, everything. I mean, we rely on our network. It's so critical, but just to be able to have that opportunity to give to our tribal members and for us to control and have ownership of is just a feat in itself.
Hello everybody, my name is Violet Leaf Williams. I am an enrolled member of the Timba Shoshone Tribe of Death Valley. My parents are Tanea Jackson and Harley Williams. My maternal grandparents are Tom and Kathy Jackson, and my paternal grandparents are the late Kelly Williams and Laura Sandoval. I am pleased to have the honor today speaking on behalf of all the youth here, and it is vital that we know what is going on not just in our tribal communities, but in others as well.
That's the next generation who's coming up. Her take on what it means to have this high-speed internet access. We're always looking to progress and always growing.
And know that we do keep the youth in mind. We want them to have a good life. We want them to make good choices. There's so much out there in the world that's available to them. They have to have some stability in themselves. If I could make it to this age through my past, I know they can because they have a lot of opportunities. Dream big and go for it.
All right, that's really exciting. My thanks to the communication team for putting that together and helping share the important milestone with all of us. Turning now to, we can go to the next slide, the progress across the initiative. Momentum continues to build and accelerate. We have now permitted 73% of the total planned network, adding more than 670 miles just since January alone. This reflects the project's continued progression from planning to full-scale execution. Construction is advancing as well. We have reached 46% completion of fiber installation, with more than 300 additional miles constructed since January as well. Further evidence of the team's steady on-the-ground progress across the state. With respect to operations, we have selected a network operator who is expected to begin service in July, just a few months from now. We'll share more details on the selection shortly, but this represents another important step towards bringing the network fully online for communities. And we also continue to coordinate closely with the CPUC and federal funding account awardees, with up to 65 locations anticipated to connect to the middle mile network. This coordination helps ensure that communities are well-positioned to benefit as the infrastructure comes online. We think the direction is clear. California's Middle Mile Broadband Initiative is advancing and moving towards delivering meaningful results. Next slide, please. We have now installed more than 3,000 miles of conduit and fiber. Active construction is underway across over 2,000 miles of highway and local roads. And as mentioned earlier, we are able to initiate service and sign our first customer along a 423-mile segment of Highway 395. In addition to fiber deployment, we currently have 17 active construction sites preparing for hut placement, an essential component of network operations. In April, we placed 2 huts with additional installations to follow as grading is completed and concrete cures. The remaining 111 sites are currently in pre-construction and will advance to grading activities shortly. Will advance as grading activities begin. And the table at the bottom, if we go back to the last slide. All right. And the table at the bottom here provides a breakdown of total MMBN miles, showing that 73% of the network has been permitted and 46% has been constructed. And this equates to approximately 5,900 miles, either under active construction or complete. Now we can go to the next slide. I know everybody's excited about it. So next, I'm pleased to share that CDT has officially selected Skyline Technology Solutions as a network operator, marking another important milestone as we move from development into full operations. This selection followed a competitive and rigorous procurement process. Skyline brings the capabilities required to support day-to-day network operations at a statewide scale, including demonstrated experience operating large and complex networks. While no other state has undertaken a middle mile initiative at the scale California is pursuing, Maryland developed a comparable statewide network designed to deliver high-capacity connectivity to hundreds of state, county, K-12, higher education, library, and public safety locations. And Skyline has operated Network Maryland since 2010. And given the limited number of networks similar to what California is building, we're very encouraged to have an opportunity to have an operator with this level of directly relevant experience. Skyline's responsibilities will include the 24/7, 365 network monitoring and security, statewide field dispatch and maintenance, incidents response, and meeting service level requirements across the active segments. Onboarding will begin immediately, and Skyline Technology Solutions remains on track for initial service activation in July of this year. With Skyline assuming this operational role, we'll be well positioned to deliver reliable, high-performance network services. If we go to the next slide. Over the past several months, we've made strong progress with nearly 3,800 miles of fiber installed, about half of the network. We expect to add 1,500 more miles over the next 8 months, reaching about 5,300 miles completed, or roughly 65% by this year's end. Of that total, we aim to have about 4,300 miles activated and ready for service by the end of 2026. The remaining 1,000 miles will require final steps such as hut readiness, power, electronics, and internet on-ramps before becoming operational. On the map, the green segments are permitted and either completed or under construction, while yellow segments remain in permitting. And we are actively working with partner agencies to advance these approvals. These 4,300 miles will support last-mile providers serving unserved and underserved communities, including tribal areas and remote counties, and will connect FFA projects as well as key data centers in San Jose and Los Angeles. Continued coordination will be required to complete permitting, construction, hut deployment, and activation across all segments. For FFA projects, we have completed outreach to all 65 awardees planning to connect to the Middle Mile network and have held one-on-one meetings with most. with engagement ongoing as new segments come on board. We have also begun providing pricing and quotes for core services and expect to finalize our first agreement with FFA customers in the coming weeks, while continuing to expand these partnerships statewide. And then if we jump to the next slide, everybody will be, at this point, probably be familiar with our operations look ahead. We're excited that that center box is now opaque, showing that we've passed that stage, and we're moving towards operations in July there. And then if we go to the next slide, I just want to remind everyone, we do quarterly stakeholder engagement meetings, and this has been a great opportunity for some back and forth for the participants to have conversations. So we certainly encourage everybody's participation in that, and you can see the link to contact CDT to participate. And that ends my update on the team's progress and the state's middle mile network, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Director Monroe, and congratulations to you and the team and the partners. A truly historic project and moment. So kudos to you. Want to take some time right now to see if any council members have questions or comments related to Mr. Monroe's update.
I'll defer to
Commissioner Howe.
Just really inspiring. The video was great, and congratulations to the Bishop Paiute. I remember going out 4.5 years ago to meet with the tribe and the IT director, Phil Fowler. At the beginning stage, they were one of the first recipients of our Tribal Technical Assistance Program, and it's so amazing to see sort of the start of all of this now reaching actual connection, and it's just the beginning. So congratulations to everybody that worked on this, and these initiatives that were sponsored by Governor Newsom have really, really made an impact and a difference, and we're just going to see more of that. So,
Ms. McPeak.
Deputy Director Monroe, yes, congratulations to you and your team. Quite an accomplishment, and having a network operator selected is a major milestone. I also think it was just heartwarming to see Chair Williams and the younger youth, whose name is also Williams, although when I heard her talk about her grandparents, I don't think related to the chairman, but and Secretary Snyder Ashari is agreeing that they aren't related. They just have the same last name. So congratulations, Christina. You look great there. And I saw Matthew in the background behind the governor, Matthew Rantanen, and then there was a brief photo clip or image of you and Director Bailey Crimmins. You look like two proud parents standing there. So I wanted to congratulate you. I also wanted to acknowledge, given that Undersecretary Hacker is not here as a member of the Broadband Council, that I track pretty closely what is going on the Caltrans side of the network, which is about 3,300 miles. And one of our directors faithfully attends all the MMEC meetings, Rich Mata, who's also a civil engineer. And in the last quarter, because I look at what's really the change that gets reported at the Middle Mile Advisory Committee, there's been a 34% increase in permitting of the miles by Caltrans and a 35% decrease in pending applications, which shows real progress on the joint builders completing their applications. So again, congratulations to you and working closely with Caltrans and seeing this progress. The video was wonderful.
Thank you, Ms. Peak. And thanks for calling out. It really is an example, particularly the Bishop Paiute, on how Broadband for All does connect the different programs from the middle mile to the last mile. And again, it was really great seeing Secretary Snyder Ashtari there as well. So a convergence of Broadband Council member entities down there. So. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Yarbrough.
Yeah, just watching the video and then, of course, the presentation, I'm just struck by the magnitude of the project, the number of miles that, are being, created out of, sometimes nothing. It's, all the way into digging trenches, installing conduit and pulling fiber through there. Keeping track of all of those details in order to be able to then show up here at a meeting and tout the accomplishments. I'm impressed by the team. I'm sure that is very deep bench performing all of those tasks, keeping everything on track. So I just wanted to make note of that.
Thank you very much.
And if I may add to that, I really appreciate you acknowledging the team. We've got a fantastic team, and I try to remind people that we're doing something that the state hadn't done before. And so being able to develop a talent pool and pull together the kind of people, and I can't even tell you the level of commitment that the team shows on a day in, day out, problem solving, getting to yes, getting to the next step. It's been exceptional. So I appreciate you acknowledging that. And I also want to acknowledge it's been really inspirational. And I think, the Bishop Paiute tribe and working with Phil and Chairman Williams and the level of leadership at a lot of these communities. And, we think of this, I think of this at the high level, trying to get out to them, but the level of leadership and commitment that they show at that local level, it's phenomenal, and it's, they're building from nothing in a lot of cases, and it's been really inspirational.
Thank you, Mark. And I'm wondering, Secretary Snyder-Ashari, did you want to make a comment?
Sure. I just wanted to commend the entire team that pushed this through. I remember, back in 2020-ish when we were contemplating how we were going to roll out California for All, broadband for all, and really making sure that we wanted to be intentional about thinking about tribal communities as communities that have historically been dispossessed and underserved, and a lot of times utilities going right around the reservation. So, I think celebrating this milestone with a California tribe as the first last mile customer, I think is something that, as has already been mentioned, is historic. Like, this is something that I think is kind of a pinch me moment for tribes, where being first in line is kind of never the case for tribes throughout the state. And so I just really want to commend the thoughtfulness, both around ensuring that this tribe could be that first customer, but also the thoughtfulness in planning the event and making sure that tribal voices and tribal leadership is really elevated. So really good work. I'm really happy to be a part of it, and really wonderful showcase for something that I think is a major priority of the governor. So thanks all.
And thank you, Secretary Snyder-Ashari. Wanted to give kudos back to you because you do remind us that, in the middle of the pandemic, or at the tail end of the pandemic, after Senate Bill 156 passed, your leadership was instrumental in putting together, working with the Department of Technology and PUC and Caltrans, I think the first the virtual California Tribal Broadband Summit, which really walked through the middle mile and federal programs that folks could leverage in state programs. So it seems like that was just yesterday, but a long time has passed. And it's good to see this project, as you so eloquently said, be the first. So thank you. Ms. McPeak.
I wanted to just follow up and do apologize for speaking again, Mr. Chairman, but when Mark Monroe said, remember, this has never been done before, I really had PTSD for my experience in mega infrastructure projects and serving as secretary, because generally, never before having been constructed, projects will take, as a rule of thumb, twice as long as anybody predicted and cost almost twice as much. And you're actually bringing this in on budget, because that is the budget, so congratulations. But I couldn't help but literally have that flashback. So the second comment I wanted to make is just thinking about what Secretary Snyder-Astari said, and going back to when the California Emerging Technology Fund was first stood up, we started a round of consultations with the tribes. And we actually had then Judge Cynthia Gomez, who was the liaison before we had a secretary, assisting us. We did outreach, and it was an interesting listening session where the question really was for us, do the tribes want to be connected? And actually they did. Then we did a second round of consultations, again with Judge Gomez and Scenic. And there was even more of a sense of we want to be connected. And what really came through for me in listening was that so many of our registered tribal members of the 109 tribes, and there are more obviously in California, federally recognized tribes, many of those registered members live in urban areas. And that by by the homeland, the tribal lands being connected, the technology is actually enabling a cultural connection to the land, and really is a way of unifying our first Californians. So I just want to sort of come full circle on all of those listening sessions and what it means, not just in terms of technology, but in terms of culture and heritage.
Thank you very much. Now, let's move forward to the next sub-agenda item under Broadband for All updates to the last mile programs administered by the California Public Utilities Commission. We have Commissioner Hauk here. CPUC has many last mile programs that support connectivity to homes and broadband adoption. She's going to share the significant progress that the Public Utilities Commission has made on their work as well. Commissioner Hauk.
Thank you, Chair Adams. And you can go to the next slide. So good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here to present the progress we're making on our last mile efforts. So this table provides a snapshot of our broadband-related programs. It's familiar from our prior meetings that we oversee, including the multi-year last mile Senate Bill 156 programs. And so the programs here include the Broadband Equity, Access, and Deployment, or BEAD. As many of you know, BEAD is, California received a $1.86 billion allocation, and that this program is a federal program from the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act that's being implemented by the Federal National Telecommunications and Information Administration, or NTIA. California's final BEAD recommendations include over 340 projects, and 21 entities are being recommended for award. If California's final proposal is approved by NTIA, and I'll note that that is with NTIA now, and we are hopeful that our final curing has been turned in. So if that project is approved, we will reach 100% of all of the BEAD eligible locations in California. And that is over 338,000 locations, which is more locations than any other state. For the most up-to-date information on our BEAD program, please check out our website, and I'm sure we'll have some additional updates at our next meeting when hopefully we've received that approval. Next, I want to talk about the California Advanced Services Program, and this program consists of the fund consists of 6 programs. They support a range of community broadband needs, from technical assistance of infrastructure and broadband adoption. The last CASIF broadband infrastructure grant account application window closed on October 31st of 2025, and we've extended the deemed denied deadline to July 31st of this year. And recommended projects for funding are starting to roll out and will continue to roll out through consideration of that July deadline. We also just, as a reminder, postponed the 2026 CASF Broadband Infrastructure Grant Account application deadline from April 1st, 2026, which was the initial deadline, to October 1st of 2026. So this additional time is going to allow us to review the federal funding awards, both looking at what we have with the FFA program and the $1.86 billion for BEAD, because we'll have the approvals hopefully before October. And it'll help inform us of what enforceable commitments are out there for the federal programs, and we'll be able to maximize the dollars that we have to ensure that we're expanding broadband to any additional locations. And then there are 3 other grant programs with upcoming application deadlines: the next Tribal Technical Assistance Account deadline, the Broadband Adoption Account, and the Broadband Public Housing Account. The next deadline is also July 1st of 2026. And then we also had our annual CASF workshop this week, which I'll provide a little more information on later in the presentation. And if you've not already signed up to receive our CASF program updates and want more information, I encourage you to go to our website and sign up for those updates. Our loan loss reserve program supports public entity bond financing for broadband projects. That is a $50 million program, and we are evaluating that program, and I will be able to provide some more updates at our next meeting on where we are with looking at how to implement the loan loss reserve program. And last on the table is but not least, is our federal funding account program, which is a multi-year funding of approximately $2 billion, and it represents comprehensive one-time investments implementing the vision of our Broadband for All. We held 2 rounds of applications and awarded $1.23 billion of grants through this program. So $5 million, as many of you know, was allocated for every county to start, and then each county was further allocated funding based on that county's share of unserved locations. Of the total federal funding available, the funding allocations were split among county areas using a formula that was adopted by the Commission in April of 2022. And there could be future application rounds and grant rounds if the $550 million in funds that's remaining for the overall total of the $2 billion is appropriated in fiscal year 2027, 2028. So we're hoping to see that appropriation. So next slide. So again, just some more specifics on the update on the last mile federal funding account. There was 106 technical assistance grants, 122 projects across the state. On the left side of the slide, there's a map of California indicating the counties that received awards through the FFA program. The counties in dark green received awards in round 1 and purple in round 2. And as you can see, we have awarded funds to every county in the state. On the right side is, again, some additional details on the award amounts. There was $1.23 billion in grants awarded. Again, all 58 counties have been awarded funding. 2.1 million Californians are benefiting from this investment, and 4,000 community anchor institutions are benefiting, and 7,500 fiber miles were deployed or will be deployed, and 120 projects offer an affordable plan. So I'm going to just... And then we'll continue to keep you posted as we get more information about any additional rounds for the program. So next slide. So this slide is a spotlight of one of our recent grantees. So we're proud to spotlight the Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians and the tribally owned Chumash Fiber Network. Santa Ynez Chumash Indians are deploying broadband infrastructure with their federal funding account grant of approximately $4.7 million. This network is roughly 13 miles of underground fiber, which will be deployed through more than 1,400 acres of ranch land where tribal housing is being developed, and it's known as Camp 4. And it is being developed in regards to the original reservation where the network equipment data center is housed at the Chumash Casino Resort. The project leverages California's open access middle mile broadband initiative to upgrade existing backhaul infrastructure and support this new network traffic. The tribe is building an ISP and infrastructure providing gigabyte systemetric fiber for a generational investment in the resilience of their community, and the project stands to benefit 853 Californians, 300 locations, and it is depicted in the map here on the top left of the slide. And the highways, 246 running west and east, and 154 running north and south, are in green, and some of this contains the middle mile broadband network. So one more shout out to the broadband middle mile. Congratulations for this project as well. And the pink is the reservation area, and the blue is the new housing area that is going to be developed. So the tribe is also a technical assistance grant recipient, and this project again demonstrates the convergence of multiple strategic infrastructure grant-making initiatives in California's Broadband for All ecosystem. Our tribal technical assistance, middle mile broadband initiative, and last mile federal funding account have made a tangible positive impact for communities. So we're really seeing how these different grants are coming together to create success in expanding broadband across the state. Most importantly, this is a powerful example of how broadband grants are an investment in a community and in people. This grant-funded fiber network is a continuation of decades of self-reliance and utility infrastructure experience. And in the words of the tribe's chairman, Kenneth Kahn, we think 7 generations out or more, and we're seeing that here with this broadband expansion. And so we invite you to explore the story further on our website. We have an article on this in our California Connectivity Stories, where you'll find additional information about the project and our interview with Chairman Kahn. So please check that out on our website. Next slide. So here we have the status of our 6 accounts. The adoption account is currently reviewing, again, a tremendous number of applications, particularly for our digital literacy work. It's roughly twice the number of applications that we've received in the past, and this is thanks in part to projects that were expecting digital equity access funding. So we're seeing an impact in our other programs based on some of the decisions being made at the federal level. The Broadband Infrastructure Grant Account recently circulated a letter, again, postponing the deadline from the April 1st deadline to the October 1st for our infrastructure grant, and we are still looking at awards from the 2025 cycle, as I noted before, and those will be rolling out between now and July 31st. The Broadband Public Housing Account currently has 17 applications for $2.4 million under review. And then just to note, again, on the infrastructure, going back to the infrastructure grant for a moment, we had received 41 applications for $424 million that are the ones being reviewed for July. So that's a tremendous amount of applications coming in. So there is definitely a need for more funding for infrastructure expansion in the state. And this is something that I think we need to continue to prioritize. The line extension, going to the line extension program now, it does not have any current applications under review, but we are taking applications on a rolling basis. Our tribal technical assistance program currently has 9 grantees and expects more applications in the cycle that will start again on July 1st, 2026. And our adoption account and public housing accounts also have, again, the same deadline of July 1st, 2026 for the next round coming in. Next slide. So here is just another example of some of the grants in action. I wanted to highlight a visit I participated in to the Nickerson Gardens community in the Watts neighborhood of Los Angeles. Nickerson's Gardens is a public housing development operated by the Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles, and it is the largest public housing community in the state, if not the nation, and it provides high-speed internet to its residents and operates a computer lab with digital literacy classes for residents, and this work is in thanks partly to our CASF grant programs, our public housing account, and our CASF adoption accounts. The community leaders at Nickerson Gardens, representatives of the Housing Authority, LA County, the Office of Mayor Karen Bass, CETF, Sunny McPeak also participated in the site visit. CSU Dominguez Hills, Workforce Integration Network, Everyone On, SCDC Project SOAR, and Build Hope participated in the site visit. And also we participated in a really thoughtful discussion on the importance of digital literacy and broadband affordability and the particular need for support of public housing facilities. And we heard some really moving stories from the residents on how these programs have really affected people that are living there, youth and others. And it was really an inspiring visit to see what the community's doing and how the expansion and access to broadband has really made a difference in people's lives there. So next slide. I also want to highlight that in our decision from last November, we authorized the creation of tribal broadband consortia to assist tribes in applying for commission programs related to broadband deployment. As many of you may know, our consortia program is based by county, but there was no specific programs looking at the unique needs of tribal communities. And so we have as a starting point, are looking to create 3 regional consortiums in Northern, Central, and Southern California. And we had a panel discussing the tribal consortia at our workshop earlier this week on April 22nd. And it was really great to hear from folks that are working in the space, tribal members, tribal communities that are implementing broadband and what their needs are and how these consortia are going to potentially be able to really support the work they're doing. And to do that, it was really emphasized that they need to be built on the needs of tribes, and we need to be going out and doing engagement, meeting with tribal communities and making sure the programs, the consortias, and what is expected of those consortiums are meeting the needs that we're hearing directly from the tribes, and that these are organizations that will be set up by and for the tribes to meet their needs. So really excited about those conversations. We have our first workshop we're looking at holding this summer in Northern California in the Chico area. The Mechoopda Indian tribe has offered to host, and then we're also going to be doing further engagement to encourage other tribes to participate and see if there's folks willing to work with us to host something in other parts of the state, but are really looking forward to hearing more. And I believe our CSF workshop was recorded, so if anyone's interested in hearing what the tribes had to say about how they feel the consortia can help benefit their communities and things they would like to see, I encourage you to go back and listen to that panel. Next slide. So this slide, we have our affordability update and looking at some of our programs that are here to ensure that we're meeting the needs of all Californians. I think we know it's a real challenge to modernize this system just from the infrastructure side, but if it's not affordable for many individuals, they're not going to have access. And so we need to make sure that we've got programs in place for these necessary services. And this slide has on the left our mission, which is to empower California through access to safe, clean, and affordable utility service and infrastructure. And if you look at the right side, we have the different programs that the Commission offers. And the consumer programs here include our Lifeline program, the California Home Broadband Lifeline Pilot, which I am going to skip over because I know we're going to have a presentation from Director Osborne right after this, so I will not discuss that one in detail, but just note this is one of our consumer programs. We've got our public housing account and our adoption accounts that are part of our CASF program, and then infrastructure availability. We have our California Teleconnect Fund, the CASF, and our consortia, the technical assistance programs that we've offered, whether it was the local technical assistance through the FFA program or the tribal technical assistance. We've got the federal funding account and our broadband equity access and deployment, which we anticipate will be approved by NTAI soon. And so all of these programs are intended to ensure that we're getting both access and addressing affordability issues for communities. Next slide. And this, I believe, is our last slide. So I just wanted to note that we recently held our annual CASF public workshop to facilitate collaboration among regional consortia, stakeholders, local governments, facility-based broadband providers, and consumers regarding cost-effective strategies to reach unserved areas. And we had some really good discussions. We focused a lot on the consortia, both the consortia that are in place now as well as the tribal consortia, and there was some really good discussions with providers and looking at successful projects under our line extension program also. So upcoming workshop, there will be an upcoming workshop report which I encourage you to take a look at, and then it will also include updates on the broadband infrastructure deployment, broadband public housing account, adoption account, our line extension program, and again, panels included broadband, the tribal broadband consortia, the regional broadband consortia, our adoption account, and the line extension program. And again, I think it was very informative and appreciate everyone that participated in the panels, attended the event, and all of our staff for the work they did in coordinating and setting up the workshop. And that will conclude my update.
Thank you, Commissioner Hauk. It's a truly impressive suite of last mile programs that the Public Utilities Commission administers, from the infrastructure to the consortia to the adoption account. And really, I think you said it best in your comments that it's this, under the banner of Broadband for All, there are a number of strategic infrastructure investments, grant programs, and other efforts that all link together for that, continuum of connectivity to the home, to, affordable service devices, et cetera. So kudos to you and the staff at CPUC. I'm wondering if there are any members of the council would like to ask some brief questions or make some brief comments. Sunny.
I know you use the word brief specifically for me. I do want to commend you, Commissioner Hauk, for being so engaged and always listening to the public. And the workshop this past week, Director Osborne, I think, was appreciated by everybody. I know we had a team from CETF in person and others listening. So it was a great experience. And then the roundtable that was conducted at the Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles, it was great that you were there, Commissioner Hauk, and really listened, and it was so inspiring. There were two residents leaders, and they had never had the opportunity to be in the same room with a commissioner or with many of the other officials that you announced. The CEO of HACLA, Lourdes Castro, is a very experienced executive, and I think can be very helpful to all of us in the broadband public housing account and looking at it. I mean, HACLA has it's the largest of our government agencies, 16 major projects. Nickerson Gardens is the largest. And of course, every campus is different, and they have beautiful campuses. We really want to be able to listen to them, and it was a great gathering of folks that Chris Arzadi pulled together. I do want to say that Commissioner Hauk was pretty good at basketball too when she was there on the court, and I was actually lousy, and I played in high school. So anyway, congratulations to you. I love the story about what the Chumash are doing, having worked on that reservation more than 50 years ago, and Chair Ed Olivas, was one of my really valued first mentors. And UC Santa Barbara had a partnership with the Chumash. At the time, they didn't even have water. And getting water on the reservation, which we did while I was at college, led to the bingo parlor, and the bingo parlor led to the casino. And that now means that we are going to get broadband in the Santa Ynez Valley, because they really are the best to serve. And the current chair that you referenced, Kenneth Kahn, I do think is the grandson of Rosa Pace, who lived on the reservation when I worked there. So I worked with his grandmother. And then lastly, on the consultations that you're going to do with tribes around consortia, may I recommend that you invite the regional broadband consortia to be there. So they can listen, they should listen. And they often are interacting with the tribes as well. And they need to understand how the tribal needs interface with what they're doing on infrastructure.
That's a great idea. Thank you very much for those comments, particularly in underscoring the need for collaboration on that. Appreciate it. And thank you, Commissioner Houck, again. Next up, we're going to move on to the agenda item on affordability and adoption, and we're very pleased to get an update on the California Lifeline Home Broadband Pilot from Director Rob Osborne from the Public Utilities Commission. Director.
Thank you, and good morning, Chair Adams and council members. I'm Rob Osborne, Director of Broadband Consumer Programs and Carrier Oversight at the California Public Utilities Commission. Next slide, please. So just to recap, the California Lifeline Home Broadband Pilot was designed to fill the gap created following the end of the Affordable Connectivity Program, which at its height provided a $30 per month subsidy to around 2.9 million income qualified households. The pilot evolved out of a series of multi-party conversations sponsored by CETF beginning near the end of 2024 to find a state solution. When we began to sketch out the program, we asked ourselves how we could craft a subsidy that improved on the lessons learned with an aim to maximize value to both California ratepayers and program participants. The Home Broadband Pilot is a 3-year voluntary technology-neutral program providing a subsidy for either standalone broadband service or bundled broadband and voice service that allows eligible consumers to apply their California Lifeline subsidy to any internet plan that meets the minimum service standards. And that's how it's similar to the ACP. The pilot officially launched on Monday, January 26th, and on February 26th, the Commission approved Resolution T17903, which established a registration process for local agencies. One of the lessons learned from ACP is the importance of setting minimum service standards. So the broadband pilot requires a minimum of 100 megabits per second down, 20 megabits per second up, with a usage allowance of at least 1,280 gigabytes per month, which is what we think is necessary for home broadband service. In addition, the subsidy is up to $30 a month for broadband that is bundled with a wireline or wireless voice service through the same provider. There's a connection charge reimbursement of up to $39 per household per year per provider. And providers are encouraged to provide routers, modems, and computers free of charge, but they're not required to do that. Next slide, please. So the Lifeline program has received 16 advice letters, 15 of them approved, with CalNet still open. And just as a reminder, advice letters have a 30-day protest period, and following the protest period, staff are able to begin processing. I will note that Verizon Frontier is not yet on the list. They are required to participate under a settlement agreement with Cal Advocates as part of the merger decision in January. And we understand Verizon's working on submitting one. Next slide, please. Once the advice letter is approved, the program begins the onboarding process and submits marketing materials. We get marketing materials from the applicants, and the applicants begin user interface testing with our third-party administrator. As of now, there are 6 providers who've completed the onboarding and started enrolling subscribers. They are Bright House, Time Warner, Charter, Comcast, Forest Hill, and Kerman. Next slide, please. So I think we've covered that. Let's go to the next slide, please. All right, so how do people find providers? So on the California Lifeline website, there's a search tool that allows the public to search providers by zip code. The data comes from the providers, and we continue to update it as information becomes available. The red outline you see up on the screen is where people can do a provider search. Next slide, please. So this is an example, a snapshot of a subscriber, of the search results for area code 95814. You can see Comcast is listed, but if there are other providers offering service through the home broadband pilot, those will be listed as well. And this shows various plans that are have been approved by the program for the pilot. Next slide, please. So this is a snapshot as of March 30th of subscriber uptake, and we've divided it into broadband only and bundled broadband. The numbers, I have an update for this just to provide verbally. I'm sorry, I didn't get to update the slide, but as of April 22nd, the broadband-only subscribers are 7,056, and bundled broadband, 2,374. That's as of April 22nd. So a total of 9,430. We also have tried to break out subscriber data based on new, which I would call a net add, versus transfer, which I call a conversion. So we have new subscribers, 7,225, and transfers or conversions, 2,005. Next slide, please. So this slide looks at how people are learning about the home broadband pilot, and as shown in the table, the great majority of our contacts, if you look at the top slide, our top table, contact our third-party administrator. Those contacts have been over internet messaging or chat. The second number, 88, that's the number of phone contacts, and then finally email. So chat is the preferred method. The next table below that is looking at the top 5 reasons for contacting call center representatives. So it's the highest one is really how to apply. Secondly, how am I eligible? And then general program information, et cetera. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Osborne. And again, affordability is such a key part of Broadband for All, and really encourage the PUC for putting together this pilot to try to address that big gap left by the Affordable Connectivity Program. And it's great to see the number of connects already going up. So kudos to you and the team over there. Wanted to open up to the council members for any brief questions or comments about the pilot. Mr. Below.
Thank you. That's really good news to hear. I think back to when we were doing ACP and those other programs during the pandemic. If schools can be a part of that messaging, let's work together on that. I remember Scott and I, we were flyers that go in the backpacks back to school. So if that's an opportunity to get the word out this fall to encourage participation, we want to make sure we do that. Also, hearkening back to the CTF, the CTF is a great program that benefits schools so much. Having that extra subsidy for broadband for our K-12 schools is critical. So whatever we can do to continue to work with staff on that messaging and on getting the word out to schools so they are insured, because we've got a big lift with the recertification that's coming up. And so there's a lot of concern about schools continuing to be able to participate and being eligible to schools and districts. So look forward to working with the CPUC staff, CTF staff on that with the department. So again, good work, and thank you so much for it. Because it's the crazy thing is, without these, people either go without internet or they don't eat dinner. Without CTF, schools either have less subsidy or they cut money. It's not like we're not in public education. We're not in families, or we're not in like a private thing where we can just raise fees and may offset it. So thank you so much for both these programs.
I have 3 questions, but thank you, Mr. Bello, for offering the CDE to be an information distribution. The pilot project is huge. So my 3 questions are, when you say new subscribers, Rob, does that mean they were unconnected before? Okay, great. What does chat mean?
Yes, so this is using an internet messaging chat capability.
Okay. And that's how they prefer to be enrolled? Or I'm trying to understand what that data was.
So the data on the slide is just the contact method. That's how people contacted our third-party administrator.
Got it. Okay. And then 9,000 have actually been approved for Lifeline. How many are pending?
So I don't have numbers for pending, but the 9,000 number is how many are currently enrolled and receiving the subsidy.
And you do have it by provider too, right? Yes.
We do, but that's not public information.
Okay, got it. And lastly, thank you for making clear in public that Verizon has an obligation to participate in Lifeline, since there was a little bit of a question about that, and we insisted that that was how we understood it. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McPeak.
I think it's just the kids signing the parents up, and kids text, chat all the time. Let's just be honest. They don't pick up phones and call, they text their mom. So they're texting the CPUC, say, sign my mom out. So let's be honest, that's what's happening here.
Okay, you run that for Brad.
I think I may have to call order here. No, just thank you very much. I think this is a great dialogue that makes the Broadband Council so special in the collaboration amongst the entities. Thank you, Director Osborne. Keep up the great work. Next, we're going to move on to the final sub-item of the Broadband for All agenda. I'd like to call on Ann Wen, the Engagement and Operations Manager at the Office of Broadband and Digital Literacy, to give an update on the State Digital Equity Plan. Ann?
Thank you, Chair. We have continued to implement the State Digital Equity Plan with current resources through stakeholder and partner engagement, development of tools and resources, and leveraging existing and expanding new partnerships through the request for innovative ideas. So on partner and stakeholder engagement on the slide, the Digital Equity Plan acknowledges that collaboration, coordination, and alignment are critical in a resource-scarce environment to make sure we are maximizing our resources and increasing efficiency. Thus, since January 2026, earlier this year, we have transitioned our monthly convening to the Digital Equity Community of Practice. We have endeavored to bring together community leaders and subject matter experts to discuss relevant digital equity topics as suggested in the stakeholder survey and feedback. These meetings are very well attended, as you can see here, and we have received great positive feedback as quoted in the yellow section. Next slide. Regarding the development of tools and resources, which I will go in a little bit, I want to highlight our upcoming community of practice meetings that I just mentioned. Our upcoming one is actually next Thursday on April 30th. QR code is to register it, and I hope you all can join us. It's a great opportunity to engage in bi-directional conversation on digital inclusion and digital equity topics. And we will hold monthly convenings from now through the end of the year, and looking forward for you to join us. Next slide. Thank you. So really now regarding the development of tools and resources, which I'm really excited to share about, CDT recently developed an enhanced Digital Equity Resource Finder in collaboration with ecosystem partners, whom we engage extensively through surveys, listening sessions, and user testing for additional inputs. Thus far, over 200 state and local organizations contributed information on over 800 locations throughout California. The statewide collaboration allowed us to expand the DE Resource Finder to help residents and organizations locate digital inclusion programs, including broadband access, devices, digital skills training, and technical assistance. Next slide, please. In this most recent iteration, you'll find new features such as the mapping features and search functions that help increase user experience and allow them to search for virtual and place-based in-person services near them. And as we've done throughout the broadband portal, the Finder is also accessible in over 100 languages. Next slide, please. Here's a screenshot of what the Finder looks like in our map view. Specifically, as an example, it's searching for resources within Alameda County. And I encourage you all to explore the Digital Equity Finder, Resource Finder, and share this information with your members, stakeholders, and partners. Using this QR code, you can get to our Broadband for All portal, DE Resource Finder. Next slide, please. I will now ask Broadband Administrative Manager James Spencer to come back and share about the request for innovative ideas.
Thank you, Ms. Wen. So as we communicated at the last meeting, we launched a request for innovative ideas to seek solutions to assist in implementing the state digital equity plan. We sought and received proposals to address the challenges you see on this slide. Given that this remains an open solicitation, I'm limited in what I can share today, but we are actively engaged in exploratory dialogue with several entities. We do look forward to sharing more at the future meetings as the process moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wen. Thank you, Mr. Spencer. I want to take some time. Are there any questions or comments from members of the council? I would like to make one comment and thank Ms. Wen and Mr. Spencer for their leadership of their teams and continuing to drive forward this work. I'd also like to call out and acknowledge Mr. Chisholm from the state libraries. When you look at the Digital Equity Resource Finder and the aim to create more local locations where residents can find these services. Mr. Chisholm has been very helpful doing outreach through the California library system to branch libraries and communicating that, and he's largely responsible for a lot of the work that's in there. So thank you, Mr. Chisholm and State Libraries.
Thank you, Chair Adams.
Great. Okay. Well, that concludes the Broadband for All update. We are now going to move to the next agenda item, which is the member spotlight, and we're going to hear from Ms. McPeak from the California Emerging Technology Fund about some public benefit agreements that they negotiated out of the Verizon Frontier merger. And as you can see, the state has a lot of resources, a significant amount of resources dedicated to infrastructure and other grant programs through the Public Utilities Commission. But with the loss of the Digital Equity Act dollars, it's good to see that these merger agreements are contributing to work that aligns with Broadband for All. And we're interested in hearing about that, Ms. McPeak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't comment on the last one, but I do want to start my presentation thanking Ms. Witt and Mr. Spencer for your great presentations. You can go to the next slide. What I'm going to report on is what you said, Mr. Adams, is that the opportunity that is presented in California is that there is a law that needs to have a public benefit finding if a merger or an acquisition is being approved by the Public Utilities Commission. That is a very powerful tool. It is actually the California Public Utilities Commission who first decided to use that tool, that power, to negotiate or require public benefits. It is not something that started with the California Emerging Technology Fund. The CETF is literally a public benefits agreement. And so we're really very fortunate that over time the Public Utilities Commission has approved now 5 such public benefits agreements. And that is a major source of resources for closing the digital divide. And so I just wanted to comment that we have a doctrine that we have advanced in all of these public benefits agreements that we refer to as appropriate, fair, and comparable. So we look at what is a responsibility of a company, what's appropriate for the nature of the business of that company, and then what they should be doing in terms of deployment and affordability and adoption or digital inclusion. Next slide, please. These the negotiations with companies are voluntary. They are actually encouraged by the commission, by the administrative law judge, and so it's always an interesting process. But in this case, there were three. The case of proceeding with Verizon acquiring Frontier. There were three public benefits agreements that were reached voluntarily with the company. One was with Cal Advocates, the ratepayer advocates arm of the Public Utilities Commission, the California Emerging Technology Fund, and the Communication Workers of America. Together, the benefits are pretty substantial. All of this, of course, had to be approved by the commission. And all of these agreements actually are incorporated into the commission's decision. So 75,000 households will have fiber deployed to them, 250 additional towers to improve wireless connectivity. There will be participation in the Lifeline program, is just confirmed and announced by Director Osborne, for 10 years, plus their own Verizon Forward offer. That is a huge runway of affordability in terms of closing the digital divide. And then there was a commitment that Verizon made to the California Emerging Technology Fund, for which we have an obligation to perform, $40 million for digital inclusion, to get 100,000 households, unconnected households, online and digitally proficient, and then another 1 million to assist outreach for Verizon with all the stakeholders to be able to use 500 million that Verizon will spend on small business, with an incentive, if collectively we do well enough, that they will put another 150 million into small business in California. That is a huge investment in small business, maybe one of the largest I've ever seen as I've been in this work. And so there also is a major issue that has emerged as to how do we continue what is often called DEI, or digital equity and inclusion, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We actually call it the right order of, you have to have inclusion to get to diversity, to get to equity, and we have commitments on that from Verizon. So let's move forward to the next slide, which will just show that these public benefits agreements aligned with the Digital Equity Plan and the Broadband for All Plan. Next slide, please. And what we have done, which is the tradition of CETF, we're now on our 6th round of listening sessions associated with public benefits agreements. And thanks to the participation of the Commission and Communications Division, Commissioner Houck has her representative in these listening sessions. Cal Advocates is also participating, and the California Department of Technology, so that we're all getting the benefit of listening to the input on these two strands, one on digital inclusion, how do we get to the 100,000 households most effectively, and then on small business. So in March and April, we have had 2 listening sessions each week, Thursdays for 2 hours on digital inclusion, Fridays for 2 hours on small business. And you can see that we've had a pretty good registration and pretty good participation, although more people register than participate. We are reminding everybody who did register that they'll have an opportunity to attend the very last listening session on April 30. But 147 organizations, and those are organizations, registered, and 98 participated in digital inclusion, a lot more businesses, because we're working with 10 networks of small businesses who are now already have started receiving grants from the Verizon commitment, such as the California African American Chamber of Commerce, who will be convening in partnership with CETF today their listening session. And I want to commend Verizon for participating in all of these. And so we are taking all this information. Every listening session is summarized. It goes back to the participants to edit and finalize. Then we are taking all of that information and we'll put together a draft action plan to be submitted, circulated, so everybody can see that. Everybody who participates also has the opportunity, if you are in the digital inclusion strand or in the small business strand, to propose how you want to receive a grant, essentially, to help in this whole process. Next slide, please. And thank you to CDT for having those QR codes, and everybody can still register. I wanted just to share with you what we're learning, which is not unlike what we've heard when we did workshops for the digital equity plan, but what you heard in doing convenings with communities of practice. And that is for the digital inclusion work among CBOs, they really need more support. And there's more support that's needed than what we all can collectively put together. But they also want very specific assistance, which is they realize that the CBOs are the trusted messenger with expertise in working in language and in culture in their communities, but they don't have the resources to duplicate what we have in the digital equity ecosystem. We don't want them wasting their time. What we can do for them at scale and much more cost effectively. So they do look to a digital equity ecosystem to support them. They definitely want technical assistance and devices, and that device piece is really problematic. It is the biggest incentive for completing synchronous digital literacy training by low-income households who have little time and little money, and so there really needs to be an incentive. A computing device is that major incentive. And then we all collectively, the companies, what we're doing at all our call centers or the programs, even Lifeline, we want to make sure is as streamlined as possible for residents to sign up. So that's what we hear. On the list, on the small business listening sessions, just going to the next one, you will see, next slide, please, that there is actually, it's pretty amazing that we are learning so much, and so is Verizon, who has actually very good programs. They're digital ready, and their small business accelerator programs are excellent. Hardly anybody actually knows about them, knows how to take advantage of them, and no small business is going to engage on online learning if there isn't the prospect of actually a contract at the end. And so that is part of what we're trying to facilitate. What is going to be needed is working with these business networks, the chambers of commerce, the ethnic chambers of commerce, other small business organizations, for them to continue to be an intermediary, which is what I did expect to hear. I think their value has to be invested in. They definitely, they want to continue to work together. And as a network, actually, of organizations with Verizon, there is a need to bring in all the state agencies who serve small business. And we will continue to also interface with workforce preparation. I think the next slide is actually the last listening sessions. And I wanted to say, here we are. We're on Friday. There is one this afternoon. And next week for digital inclusion on April 30th, which is the afternoon after you do your community of practice. People can still register and participate. And if they participate in the listening session, then they get sent the opportunity for a very simple proposal on how to be able to contribute to these solutions. That should be it.
Thank you so much, Ms. McPeak, to both you and CETF for your tireless work on digital inclusion and closing the digital divide. Being an advocate and advocating for this public benefit, that came out of the merger. We look forward to tracking this, in future meetings. I want to open it up to questions to any of the council members. Any questions or comments? Yes, Commissioner Hope.
Yes, I also wanted to thank you for the work in this area. I know it's a lot of effort to coordinate these meetings and a lot of juggling with different people. I had a question and was hoping to get a little more information on what you're hearing and any potential recommendations you may be looking at in regards to the workforce and supplier diversity issues, because I know that that's been something that's come up at the commission with our GO 156.
Yes, and of course, the GO 156 has been a reporting requirement for about 4 decades. And what I do hear that is referenced in the last bullet point for the small business is that they concur in how we have chosen to interpret the obligation of companies who have continued to say to the Federal Communication Commission, we are for equal opportunity and non-discrimination. We have advanced in the proceedings testimony from Dr. Pedro Noguera that says that the most significant hurdle to that is actually systemic racism. The best proxy for that today, most prevalent, is poverty. And that what we are holding accountable ourselves and Verizon and every other company to is in a 5-year arc, which we consider to be very sufficient. With all of our collective efforts, the population of California better be reflected in the workforce of the state, of their workforce and all other regulated utilities, and in the supplier diversity. So we're far from that, as the GO 156 reports show for all companies, actually. And so this effort and this iterative process of how do you get to the small businesses? The chambers need more support. The small businesses aren't going to actually take the time to become more digital ready and to become qualified as a supplier unless they think they're actually going to get a book of business. The book of business from Verizon alone isn't going to be enough for all of the companies we've now just touched, who are going to need, and we take therefore responsibility, working with state agencies, working with other public agencies, other utilities, to actually bring to them the opportunity for applying or competing for business. And then once they have the contract, they need employees. But they're not going to employ, they're not going to engage employees if they don't have a contract. It is literally catch-22 for them. This whole investment and us working collectively has to interrupt what is sort of the status quo. That's what we hear. And they're all anxious, all the businesses, small businesses that actually show up and comment. They want to be in this conversation to get to results.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. And I look forward to your report at the end of the sessions.
Thank you very much, Ms. McPeak. Again, thank you for the wonderful question and the back and forth there. Going to move on to our next item, and I think a good segue to what Ms. McPeak said. We learned so much through engaging, and one of the things that we collectively, when I say we, a lot of the Broadband Council members going out, developing the digital equity and BEAD plans together, learning about adoption, barriers to access, adoption, affordability, but also concerns about what happens if we connect vulnerable populations, what about data privacy, ownership of data, et cetera. So we thought it would be really advantageous to do a community spotlight at this Broadband Council meeting on a very, very cool tool that has been developed by our state partners at the California Privacy Protection Agency. Proud to invite Marissa Rosenblatt, who's the Assistant Deputy Director of Public and External Affairs, to share with us about this tool they've created called the Delete Request and Dropout Platform, also known as DROP. So welcome, Marissa.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I'm Marissa Rosenblatt. I'm Assistant Deputy Director of the Delete Act at the California Privacy Protection Agency. We also go by Cal Privacy. I'm excited to be here today and to talk a little bit about DROP, which is a platform that we launched earlier this year. Next slide, please. So just to set the stage for today's overview of DROP, in our highly connected world, every time we scroll social media, make an online purchase, or even just walk around our neighborhoods, carrying a smartphone in our pockets, businesses are collecting information about us. And this slide shows just a sample of the kind of information that could be captured, whether it's information about who you are, your browsing habits, your precise location, purchase history, your device IDs, and a lot more. Next slide, please. And there is one kind of category of business and industry that's operating largely in the background that buys and sells this information, and these businesses are called data brokers. What makes data brokers unique is that they collect and sell personal information about consumers with whom they have no direct relationship. So you may have experienced the kind of common situation in which you go online, maybe visit a website, search for, I don't know, a pair of headphones that you want to buy. You kind of walk away, and 2 days later on your maybe social media feed, you are being served ads for headphones from a totally different company. And so that's just one kind of example in the advertising context of where a data broker could kind of buy information about you, what you're doing online, and sell it to another entity who then can use it for any number of reasons. And that example is pretty, benign, if not sometimes a little bit creepy feeling. But really, depending on the type of information that a data broker collects and how sensitive that personal information is, the sale and sharing of this information can cause real harm to consumers. Next slide, please. So that's where the DELETE Act comes in. It was signed into law in October of 2023 and really does two big things. One, brings transparency to data brokerage as an industry for the first time. All data brokers are required to register with the state of California, and we publish that registry on our website. And two, it gives consumers the right to delete their information from data brokers, not one by one, but all at once. It requires us as an agency to build an accessible deletion mechanism, which is the new platform that we launched this year. And that's called Drop. So I'll now walk through what that experience looks like for a consumer. Next slide, please. So first, Drop is available to all California residents. You have the option here to either enter personal information, basic information such as your name, address, date of birth, or to use login.gov and to have your status as a California resident verified automatically. All of that processing is being done by the California Department of Technology's California Identity Gateway. You don't have to create an account. You don't have to set up, a username and password. We kind of do that, and then Drop just hears back as to whether or not the consumer is a California resident. Next slide, please. Once you are verified as a California resident, you enter in basic information. And this is the information that data brokers will use to essentially match your information to what they have in their records. At a minimum, you have to enter name, date of birth, and zip code. But you can also enter information such as a mobile advertising ID, a vehicle identification number, or even a television ID. And really the amount of information is up to you. In general, the more you enter, the more, the greater the chance a data broker can find you and then delete any information that they find on you in their records. Next slide, please. Finally, once you do that, you can submit your request. The process is pretty straightforward and streamlined. It takes just about 5 to 10 minutes. You get an 8-digit drop ID, and you can use that ID to come back at any time and check the status of your request. So you can come back and see of the data brokers to whom these requests are sent. And again, there's over 566 right now that are registered in the state of California, and Drop does the sending of these requests to them automatically. You can come back, check status, and see which of those data brokers found a match to your information, and you can confirm the status of any deletions. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, you can check your status anytime, and data brokers have a little bit of time to get on board. It's a new process and system. So beginning August 1st of this year, data brokers are required to access the system, pull down these requests and start processing. One other note is when a consumer enters their personal information, we immediately hash all of the information, which essentially takes what was entered, say your zip code, scrambles it and kind of puts it into a format that, you have to kind of dehash to read. And so data brokers, when they pull down these requests, they're not getting your personal information. They're getting a hashed version of it that they have to then try to match using our kind of hashing algorithm. So it's a really elegant way of, data minimization and not exposing, more surface area of consumer personal information for the purposes of facilitating deletion. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we launched Drop on January 1st of this year, and we've had well over 250,000 requests since then. A large, majority of those requests and kind of traffic and interest was driven by, local and national press coverage, word of mouth, social media, and referrals. So the response was really positive. Overwhelmingly, and we're really excited to see the numbers continue to rise, especially as the August processing deadline approaches. Next slide, please. So finally, we have a number of resources on our website, privacy.ca.gov, including, downloadable and printable resources. There are blurbs in there you can copy and paste into, social media or newsletters. And we'd really love for you all to, share this information with your friends, family, communities, constituents. We're really trying to get the word out. As Californians, we're really lucky to have some of the strongest privacy rights in the nation, and Drop is now making them even easier to exercise. So I will pause there. Thank you so much. And I think I'll, take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Rosenblatt. Really impressive, really cool tool. Want to open up to members of the council. Any questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Below.
Yeah, it's really, really great to hear this. I hear about this tool. I was just texting our privacy person at the department saying, I wonder if we've shared this with our students and families, because that's one of the big concerns that families have. Because it turns like every time we turn around, our families are losing their data one way or another, intentionally or unintentionally. So be sharing this information out. So looking forward to partnering with you on that. It is really, it'll be great to see how it works out. One other thing that was interesting is we just did AI guidance. That's another whole set of records. And in that, Senator Becker, who actually is on this committee, required that there was a part that said that parents had access to the records that the AI created on their students. And so that's a whole another part of aspect of this. And so we had to address that in the guidance. So thank you for your efforts.
Thank you so much.
Any other comments, questions from the council? Ms. Rosenblatt, CDT appreciates the partnership and being able to work with you all on this, and we'll continue to promote it out through communities of practice. But again, it's just another way that the state can contribute to the effort of, we're all committed to getting Californians connected and empowered by being online. But it's also great to see that there's this tool protecting folks from some of the potential harms.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, well, now we are going to move on to public comment. Ms. Nguyen, would you please provide the public comment guidelines and begin the session?
Of course. To ensure everyone who wishes to make public comment can do so, we respectfully request 1 person per entity and 2 minutes per person. The order of public comments will be in-person comments, Zoom and phone comments, and emailed comments submitted prior to the meeting. For in-person comments, please form a line at the podium. For Zoom, please use your raise hand feature in the lower toolbar. For phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. There were no email comments prior to the meeting. So thus, we will start with the first person in the room at the podium.
Is it this one? Okay. Good afternoon, council members and state partners. I'm Patrick Messick with the East Bay Broadband Consortium. The prohibitive cost of internet remains the #1 barrier to broadband access. At a time when the federal regime has impounded hundreds of millions of dollars in digital inclusion funding as a, quote, racist woke handout, California has to get the basics right. The solution's fully within our control. Let's focus on 2 areas where we can make life better for Californians before the next quarterly CBC meeting. First, on transparency. Right now, communities don't know which providers participate in the California Lifeline broadband pilot, what plans they offer, and where those plans are actually available. The lack of clarity slows enrollment and undermines trust. The PUC can fix this now by moving beyond a zip code lookup tool and publishing a comprehensive statewide view of participating providers, plans, and service areas, along with what customers will need and can expect when they enroll. Without that, it's difficult for trusted messengers to scale outreach and build trust. Second, eligibility pathways. As highlighted by Mr. Ballou, schools are critical partners to get kids online, and the PUC identifies the National School Lunch Program as a pathway for students to qualify for the $20 a month benefit. But in California, there are 2 structural barriers. 1, state ed code limits how schools can share NSLP eligibility documentation. Second, in high poverty schools operating under the community eligibility provision, students do not apply for free or reduced lunch meals individually because the entire school qualifies. This results in a major gap. Students in the highest poverty schools have the hardest time being eligible for this benefit. Fortunately, there's a straightforward fix. The PUC can clarify through an advice letter that the enrollment in a community eligibility provision school is equivalent to meeting free or reduced price lunch eligibility for the purposes of Lifeline. That would immediately open the door for students in the highest need communities to access this benefit. This is not new. The Affordable Connectivity Program recognized CEP schools as a valid pathway, and it worked. These are practical solvable issues. 1, publish a comprehensive provider plan and coverage information. 2, clarify CEP as an eligibility pathway. We have to act now because failure is not an option. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Messick.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we will hear comments from Zoom via hands raised. Lindsay Skolnick, please come off mute.
Hello, members of the council. My name is Lindsay Skolnick. I'm here speaking on behalf of the California Alliance for Digital Equity, also known as CADE. I wanted to provide a brief comment regarding the home broadband pilot program. CADE appreciates the updates on advice letters received so far and what providers have already completed onboarding. It's exciting to hear about the progress of the pilot, as we know it is playing a critical role here in California, particularly for subscription vulnerable residents that have not had access to an internet subsidy since the ACP program ended in 2024. As more providers finish onboarding and start enrolling subscribers, we'd recommend that the CPUC publish information about approved providers more regularly, specifically relating to their coverage areas and their plans on offer through the pilot. While the provider search tool is very valuable for potential customers as they work to identify specific providers in their area, digital equity stakeholders that are interested in broadly promoting the program would benefit from having access to more public information about all plans providers are offering through the pilot and where those services are being offered across the state. This could be achieved by publishing a map that visually shows where approved providers' coverage areas are and then details the plans offered in those areas. And that's just one example idea. Ideally, a map of this kind could be updated regularly as more providers are approved or onboarded. Thank you for your consideration of my comments and suggestions. CADE appreciates the leadership of this council and shares the common goal of continuing to work together to achieve broadband for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment. At this time, I don't see any more person in the room or on Zoom would raise hand. So Chair Adams, that ends our public comment session.
Thank you, Ms. Wen. Before we close, I was wondering, would any of the council members like to make additional comments before we close this meeting? Any of the folks online? Excellent. Well, I want to thank the council members and presenters for their contributions today, and to the members of the public for your thoughtful comments. We are proud of our collective accomplishments and this council's unwavering commitment to broadband for all Californians. I want to also express my gratitude for those working so diligently to move things forward, including the staff at both the Department of Technology, the PUC, the County Administrative Officer helping administer this, and the other folks that are contributing to the effort. Your work is valued, and it's because of that that we continue to make this progress on broadband for all. Wanted to highlight that our next meeting is scheduled for Friday, July 4th, 2026, starting at 9 a.m. here in the board chambers and online. We look forward to seeing everyone then. And with that, we conclude the April 24th, 2026 Broadband Council meeting. Thank you.